2 movies, 3 rounds, 1 winner. Welcome to the Movie Battle Podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 9, which I did not remember, but you just reminded me just a few moments ago that it is episode 9. So I feel like we should refer to them by episodes from now on. Like, welcome to episode 9.
It's a bit
Welcome to
late for that,
episode
though, isn't it?
7. I think I did it for the first 2, but I don't know.
It's terrible inconsistency. It's like the naming of the sequels to First Blood.
Oh, the Rambos.
Yes, you'd
Oh, the first one is
First
called
Blood,
actually, yeah.
and the sequel is Rambo, First Blood Part 2. The third one is Rambo 3, and the fourth one is Rambo. And there's a fifth one, I can't remember what that's called, but the first 4 are badly enough named that, puts us to shame, I suppose, but just slightly.
Anyway, so we're really deep into our
Rambo.
horror season. Well, actually, have we that Rambo our First Blood?
Are you First Blood on the list?
Yeah,
We haven't. I think I definitely
have it
in the
on
back
the-
of my mind to trying to
Yeah.
find a right movie to
it's a
go
good
up against
bonus
it.
for
I don't think we have it nailed on yet, but it's definitely something I want to do.
Of course, we would, if anyone wants to give suggestions, we wouldn't mind that at all, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
Um,
may as well go for now. You can email us
At,
the movie battle podcast at gmail.com. We're on Twitter at movie battle pod pod, and
friends on Facebook at the Movie Battle Podcast as well. And are we on Instagram now?
we're on Instagram, the movie battle podcast. On there, you can search for us on all 3 social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter with hashtag the MVP as well. We drop unique pixel art every week along with each new episode, and the old tube full of views.
Of course. So if any of you are fans of First Blood, the original Rambo film,
Be sure to
Don't-
wait until we do one on that, and never listen to any podcasts between now and then.
with that said, so we're very much into our run in the horror season, and this is the 4th episode of horror season.
Yeah, we had started off with Night of the Living Dead versus 28 Days Later. Then we had Dracula versus Frankenstein. Then
that's last week, Friday the
Friday
13th.
the 13th
and-
versus A Nightmare on Elm Street.
So this week it is all about Witchcraft. It is Nicholas Roeg's 1990 film The Witches versus Kenny Ortega's 1993 film Hocus Pocus. So we're definitely shifting gears again in terms of tone, because these two, are a bit more family friendly.
To say the least,
Yeah.
yeah.
Consider some of the other ones we've been watching.
Certainly compared to last week.
Yes, the full-on 80s gore fest. Elm Street is gory, but I wouldn't say it's a gore fest.
Oh, Liam, Tina's and
Yeah, I
Glenn's
guess it
death
is, yeah.
alone.
I guess consistency, there's not a lot of, But yeah, it is, yeah.
There's not a lot of gore, but when the scenes that have gore, there is a lot of gore.
I guess when I say gore fest, I was thinking like kind of consistent, huge body count of gory deaths. But yeah,
Didn't you once say that Wes Craven was one of his favorite quotes was, "Don't be stingy, more blood, more blood."
Yes. Oh no, there
On
is
the
loads
set.
of blood in the.
That's a
film.
gore fest.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, this one. So it's The Witches of 1990, or The Witches released in 1990 versus Hocus Pocus released in 93.
Yeah, so we'll start off with round 1, as always, music. The Witches, the score was composed by Stanley Myers. And of course, The Witches is...
No relation to Michael.
No relation to
or
Michael.
Mike.
No. Or Ipkiss.
Oh,
Stanley Myers.
Stanley, yeah.
No, yes, so The Witches obviously is adapted from Roald Dahl's The Witches. and it's a proper Roald Dahl adaptation in that it's weird and um, for kids, but adults might feel like maybe it isn't quite for kids, but kids will think, "Oh, this is definitely for us," and that's why I always loved Roald Dahl growing up. It was the first time I ever read a book as a child where it felt like the author understood children how they actually are, not the kind of idealized. No offense to Disney, because we're doing a movie in this, but no offense to the Disneyfied view of kids. I felt like Roald Dahl and other people as well got and understood children on a different level. But the music, I'll be honest, starts off oddly.
Yeah.
It's very cheerful and
I had very upbeat opening music.
yeah, it was not what I was expecting at all.
It was an odd choice, definitely.
There is the cackle of Ernst. You know, Angelica Houston's character comes in pretty early on. It just about sets a vibe, but then it quickly goes away again, and we're back to chirpy, cheerfully happy.
It was like it was something that could have been in that Neverending Story or something, you know.
Yeah, much more adventure-y.
Yeah. Than like witches, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to take out children.
There's very few holes pulled in this, or punches pulled, I should say, no holes barred, in the depiction of the witches in this film. But we'll get to that in a bit. But there are other elements where it starts to kind of change a bit, and I quite a few bits actually. One thing I liked was there's a subtle eeriness when Grandma is explaining to Luke about who the wishes are and what their purpose is, and you know why they hate kids so much and how much they hate kids. I did there was a subtle eeriness to that music that fit the scene very well, because the scene was it's quite intense for a kids movie.
Yeah. So I was kind of letting you finish.
Okay,
I didn't know if you were waiting. I didn't know if you were waiting for me to go in or.
No, look, okay.
Or I wasn't sure.
Do you want to jump in on that or anything?
Yeah, no, definitely on that bit. Yeah, I think that's the music there. It kind of has it's kind of like an air of kind of wondrousness, but also kind of like that fabled tale kind of, you know, implemented in it. It kind of it captured that kind of feeling, you know, of what she was telling. And yeah, I agree. That's the scene I remember most from being a child when I first saw it. Telling him that story about her friend. I thought it was like, I'll get into that more, but yeah, that was definitely an impactful moment in the film.
In round two, definitely.
But yeah, that bit of music there, I thought was very, you know, fitting. But after that, the music, I thought it again, like kind of like Friday the 13th last week. I thought it was fine, but it didn't really stand out a whole lot to me, you know.
It's funny for me because I had when I was doing my notes, and I was kind of flying through them, to be honest, and I was trying to read. Because obviously when we're doing our notes, we're trying to watch the movie, and sometimes we even pause it just so we can kind of get our notes down and not miss anything. Mm-hmm. Especially if it's a movie we haven't seen before, or in this case, a movie we haven't seen in a long, long time. And this, for me, definitely, I'm not sure about you, but I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid. So I'm flying through my notes and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to remember, what are the big music moments? And they kind of weren't really sticking out to me. And I actually had them at one point in my notes. I had, music doesn't really stand out too much. I kind of forgot about it. But then as I was reading down through my notes and I finally deciphered what I had written, I did find several moments. And I went back, actually, I watched a few clips of it online again while I was doing my notes, and there are a few moments actually that do stand out. One of them is there's when Grandma and Luke are at the hotel and they're going to the tea room, for the first time, and we see like Bruno's dad is there giving out about to Ron Atkinson, and but Ernst is there with two of her witches.
Was her name not Eva?
Her surname is Ernst.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, you're right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So there, just as kind of as Grandma kind of notices her, there is this gentle, eerie piano music that's heard. It's very understated. I feel like this score, and I think maybe this is why we didn't maybe grab us as much straight off the bat. Is the score is very subtle. I thought, and there are large parts of this film where there was no music at all, and I think the performances were so strong is that it kind of didn't need it. Like Angelica Houston in particular, um, she just grabs hold of the screen whenever she's on it. But the there were certain moments, and again, another moment I liked was when Luke when he goes into the conference room when he's going in to train his mice just before the witches come in.
Yeah.
There's this eerie actually mix of like organ, like traditional
That's when
organ.
they're having with all the witches, the room he set up when he's hiding, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's hiding behind.
Yes, yeah, yeah. When he's with his
uh,
mice, yeah.
Yeah, and he sees them reveal themselves.
Yes.
But just before that, when he goes in, when he's just going in with the mice, before any of the witches come in, there's this really nice organ mixed with kind of a tinkling piano, and that kind of mix of sounds was. And the second viewing, I thought really, really quite strong. I really liked it actually. It had kind of a Bach kind of feel to it, with the organ, um, and very gothic. And I thought it worked really well. But again, I didn't notice it honestly. Well, I kind of had
Do
a
you
little
think
bit of a
maybe
note.
it like you're saying maybe they're using it in a subtle way, which can be good, but do you think that maybe they went a bit too far
I think
and kind of
so.
to the
Yeah,
detriment of the music
I
itself?
think so because I think if you went back and listened to it again, and especially listen
Maybe
to
if you actually played the actual
the
soundtrack,
isolated score,
yes, yeah.
it's stronger. I mean, but I did have little bits of notes on it. I just kind of didn't really stand out to me as much
Yeah.
when I was thinking, because we watched it 3 or 4 days ago.
Saturday, I think it was.
Uh,
Which, yeah, would have been about 4 days
yeah,
ago.
so 4 days ago, and yeah, when I'm thinking of the music, nothing's kind of really coming out at me. But when I'm going down to the notes, I'm like, okay, wait, what was that bit again? And then I go back and I rewatch it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is cool. The rest of a couple of bits stood out, not overly so. I felt very kind of functional, but like the scene with the baby, which we'll get into that later definitely. But the scene with the baby going down the hill, it was quite intense and it fit the music, it fit the scene
Yeah, yeah.
that was going on, but it didn't stand out really in any great way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, for me, for a lot of it wasn't like that. It didn't work. It wasn't. It's like kind of like Friday the 13th a bit, where it it was functional, but it wasn't like making you stand up to kind of taking you back. Whoa, Whereas the bit with the grandmother talking to Luke, I thought really did. That was really that was the one that did do it. Just I wish there would have been more of that kind of in it.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think there actually was. It was too hidden. Although I do think the piano and organ piece isn't. Going back, I think if you watch it again, I think you might hear what I'm saying. It is a really nice piece, and it perfectly set up because it sees Luke going into the dragon's den, for want of a better word, because I mean he's about to go face to face, or even he sees them, but they don't see him at first, with all of these witches. It's quite an intense scene as it goes on, and this is the build up to it, and it was very fitting for what he was about to face into. But yeah, it's funny that neither of us kind of really picked up on it too much. But yeah, I thought it was good. It just too understated.
Yeah, to the detriment of it in a way, kind of to the music.
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hocus Pocus was
John. Sorry, that's your.
Yeah, how dare you?
Sorry.
What do you think who do you think you are?
Just I was reading a thing about it the other day, and his name was in my head, and it's instantly just shut out.
Yeah, okay.
So
it's Hocus Pocus by John Debney, but also with some early work done by James Horner as well. One piece in particular, which we'll make special mention of.
Yeah, I believe he couldn't commit to it or something. He did about 4 or 5 other films, I think, at the time, so he couldn't. I guess why he only did like a little bit on it or something. I
It
believe
could
that's
be.
what
It could be. You might be right, but also, Hocus Pocus went through a lot of developmental
Yes.
kind of hell.
Actually, you were talking about how kind of the witches came to be through Roald Dahl. With Hocus Pocus, the guy's name, he's done some horror films as well, but I can't remember his first name, but it's something Garris. I think he wrote a draft of it, but it was either him or another guy who was part of the writing process, I believe. Was how it started was his daughter, she couldn't go to sleep or something, or something like that, or they were in the garden and this black cat kind of ran through, and he just said, "Oh, do you know that cat used to be a boy who was turned into a cat by a witch?" But just like he just told it to his
It was a
daughter.
little nugget of an
Yeah, just a
idea.
little thing, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how it initiated. Like it's crazy how that happened. Like
No,
one little
yeah,
thing,
it's interesting. And even to be honest, just go back to witches briefly.
Mm.
There's a theory that the witches uh, were, because a running theme in a lot of Roald Dahl's work is that kids are smart and good and adults are stupid and bad. You know, the adults in the books often act like really mean and cruel towards kids. And part of that is Roald Dahl was raised, or he was sent off to boarding school quite young, and he went. It was a very Catholic school, and the nuns were really cruel to him. And so some people believe that the witches were like an allegory for the nuns that really kind of raised him in a lot of ways and did not treat him very well. So it's interesting to see again a truly horrific, but different way that the stories find their way out.
Yeah.
But we'll go back to Hocus Pocus. So it starts off straight away like very atmospheric, upbeat, but mood setting as well.
The very first shot when they showed the book with the candles. I love that piece. It's very kind of haunting and enchanting, but also creepy.
Yeah. The music kind of really it balances the whole gothic story, but for kids very well. It has that sense of unease and something a little off, but never strays into the but don't oh ma'am, I don't want to watch this.
But even like kind of the bits in that aren't kind of supposed to be kind of dark. There's some lovely pieces of music in it, like even with our protagonists as well, which we'll get into as we go through it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. And then again, early on, we hear kind of a shorter version of Sarah's song, which we also hear, of course, later on, in a much more kind of
in all its glory.
Yeah, for a better phrase. And it is a fantastic song. And that was composed by Jack Horner. The music that was composed by Jack Horner.
Yeah, but I was even I listened back to it again just on its own, and it's like it's encapsulating and it kind of rings you in, but it's also when you listen to the lyrics like Into My Garden of Magic, it's very creepy. Like just the idea of what she's doing.
It's extremely creepy.
It is, isn't it? It's really very disturbing.
It's very Pied Piper.
Yeah.
The Pied Piper playing his pipe and luring all the children out of the village.
Yeah.
It's very much.
And there's aspects. Sorry, go on. You finish.
Well, I was just saying, she also has kind of aspects of the old siren of the Greek mythology that was, they would sing their songs and draw sailors to their death at sea.
Yeah. And again, there's kind of other on that as well. So I'll get into that a bit more as well when we get to Sarah. But just that whole idea of her kind of with that song, it's quite disturbing,
Extremely disturbing.
Yeah.
It's some of the darkest elements of the film, definitely.
Yeah.
But then we have again near the start of the movie where Binks in his human form is chasing after Emily and after Sarah, and is good real period style music. Very much fit the kind of late. I don't know, would you say late medieval? I don't know. Maybe it's just a puritanical era setting. There's real intensity to it, and it really helped build the tension and the drama of Binks chasing after his little.
And even when Emily walks in the door and his little kind of chuckle, there's this kind of spring of music kind of hits for a second, which again kind of, and it's kind of the light coming from their house, that orange kind of light. Not from the chimney. I know that was purple, but kind of as they open the door, there's kind of orangey kind of color. I just kind of kind of that creepy kind of. They've claimed her, kind of like lured her in.
Yeah, So then kind of for me, I'll be honest. Well, maybe you want to come in because I'll be honest. There's not a whole lot up until a certain obvious moment.
Well, I will say, do you know when Winnie summons Billy, Joe at the
Yeah.
graveyard, and she's
Yeah.
like, I felt that again. I thought was kind of haunting and mystical, and kind of really encapsulated her sorcery kind of abilities. You know what I mean? Do you know when they're kind of looking up and she's kind of giving this kind of reciting this kind of thing? It's almost like a weird prayer, almost in a way. You know, when before he comes up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I thought that was quite haunting, and I don't know. I kind of liked that. It was kind of a little undertone of being a bit creepy as well. You know,
Yeah,
which I thought worked.
I liked it. It didn't really stand out to me as
Mm.
much, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it definitely worked. It was kind of
Yeah.
like some of the other pieces we're talking about. It was suited the scene very well.
Yeah.
But it didn't stand out to me as being overly amazing or anything. But
You want to touch on the song?
look, I mean the song, because this is the first time I'd ever heard this song. As a kid growing up. I put a spell on you. Obviously, is what we're talking about here. It is so good.
And Joe, the funny thing is, it starts off initially being a little creepy when she begins it.
Yeah,
I put a
definitely.
spell on
There's this
you.
enchanting piano.
Yeah, that's
And what they do, because obviously it's Bette Midler. Bette Midler is an amazing singer, right?
Yeah.
She's had some amazing albums through the years, and sold millions of records. But so obviously, and actually it was when she saw the script and she said, "I like that." I mean, you got Bette Midler, you're going to give her a song.
Yeah.
But what a perfect song to pick.
And like you said, the way the film kind of balances kind of having, a little bit of gothic and darkness, but then also having kind of family kind of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
That song perfectly does that because it transitions into just being a really catchy song,
It's just a great song because since then, I've got into music properly, and I heard the kind of the next version I've heard of this was by CCR or Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I thought that was amazing. And then I heard Screamin' Jay Hawkins, the original version, and he wrote and originally recorded the song. And if anybody who's into blues music or horror music, he's the original shock rock guy. He basically, like Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, all of them owe so much to Screamin' Jay Hawkins. So if you're into horror music or blues music or just great rock music, then check him out.
But yeah, no, that worked just really, really well. But I also really like the song before that. That's Witchcraft song.
Yeah, no,
that's really like a great little kind of opening act to the main event, kind of
that band was good.
Oh, I mean, I would that bit. So it looks like an amazing Halloween party.
Yeah, you never go to Halloween parties like that in real life. Unfortunately,
certainly not in Ireland anyway that I know.
But yeah, just a phenomenal version and just so iconic. But my point was so Africa and CCR and Africa and Screamin' Jay Hawkins. And then I go back and I hear this, I'm like, yeah, it's still amazing. And it totally holds up, which is really rare for a Disney cover of a bizarre when it first released by Screamin' Jay, it was really parents did not like it. It was really off-putting, and he was dressed in a voodoo shaman, and it was all very unnerving to 1950s America.
But what they do is really well too is that when she's kind of given the little opening bit, and then you see Max is saying to the musician, no, I'm serious. He's like, yeah, and it builds, and she has that goes right into it.
Can we not? Can we go 1 week where you don't sing badly, please?
I'm bad with terminology with music, so I have to just make the noise rather than actually say what it is. You know what I mean?
Just say when the tempo hits, builds or hits or drops or the beat drops.
And then I loved. I always have. I love the bit. So do you know when Danny finds he thinks he's dead. Finds the cat. That whole bit all the way into when he walks off with Emily.
That is beautiful.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's sad. It's bittersweet, but it's epic. It's uplifting. There's so much in that piece. I thought was fantastic.
It is really,
really, really, really good.
Especially when the choir kicks in.
Yeah.
Just as he's kind of going over to Emily,
and he kind of gives that wave to them. Just for final goodbye.
It is a beautiful end.
Yeah.
to the score.
Mm-hmm.
I know obviously we have the closing credits theme, which is
Yeah,
all
yeah.
upbeat and happy, blah blah blah. But that kind of closure on Binks and Emily's story arc, was it was suited it perfectly, and it's really good music. But we ready to vote?
Yeah. Do you want? Yeah. I also say we'll go for. I'll just go. Yeah.
Just go,
Yeah.
damn you!
Yes, I'm going with Hocus Pocus for music. I think the music from John Debney, I think, was better on the whole. But then you also have Sarah's song, and you also have, I Put a Spell on You. Like, it's just elevated to another level completely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have them on top of it. So I think just for that, I'd give it to Hocus Pocus.
I mean, I Put a Spell on You would be enough to seal it. Sarah's song would be enough to seal it on their own.
Yeah.
Combined, there's no competition. And then also we have the other elements that are really good, especially the ending, as we just mentioned. It definitely, for me, is Hocus Pocus.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
round one in the bag.
Round one in the bag. It's 2-0 to Hocus Pocus. Next one is a semi-new.
We have to tweak it slightly because of the films that are.
So this is family-friendly horror. It's round 2. So this is one, and I'll be honest, I'm not okay. Look, you have to bear with us because I feel like we may have gone down different paths in what we're talking about in this round. So we're going to have to try and figure out as we go along.
I tweaked mine because I know we were talking about, because I was saying that Hocus Pocus has a lot more humor. Well, like Witches does have humor in it as well, but Hocus Pocus does have a lot of humor. But I've kind of found a way to bring it in with the characters a bit more.
Yes, I was hoping that's what you would do.
So I'll just let you know that in advance.
Good,
so it's okay.
Good. Okay. So definitely okay. So we're going for family-friendly horror. Is the aim of this round.
Kind of atmospheric and kind of creepy stuff that both films do have.
Yes, most definitely.
In them.
Most definitely. We probably should have discussed it a little more. I mean, but at least it does illustrate is that we don't confer before we go in to record. Like, we genuinely have no clue what the other person is going to say or think on a round. So, The Witches, horror, family-friendly horror. Opening narrative set up with grandma is we're trying not to curse, but it is effing effed up.
So I assume you're talking about the whole thing with Erica.
The whole thing leading up to it, even like it's really, really creepy.
Which talks about like the witches with the hair and the stumped toes.
Yeah.
But no, for me, like I actually think, because I kind of touched on it with the music, the story about Erica for me, like I remember that scene, it was like when she's taken in the alley and the witch looking out with the you see the kind of purple eyes, kind of like she's been targeted almost. I remember that terrifying me, and like, to be honest, I would have loved if that had been the film. Like, that to me would have actually been a better film. Do you know what I mean?
I have that written down as well. Not that it would be a better film, but that it totally could be a film unto its own.
I would love to have seen that time period with his grandmother at that age and that, like, in and around Norway.
Yeah, to be honest, it probably would have been a better film.
Yeah, I loved that.
Like, Joe struck. Immediately what I thought of was Night Gallery.
Yeah, something like
Rod
that.
Serling's Night Gallery.
But
that is so an episode he would have done.
It was so unsettling, that whole bit, like where you see her looking out at Erica, like, when she has the cat in her hands, and you just see the eyes, and then be taken at alley. I mean, you see that in a fully fledged horror film. It's disturbing. It's just that thing about a child in. I remember Wes Craven said it before, and when he was documentary for Nightmare on Elm Street, he said that like the most heinous thing you can do is harm a child, and that scene really encapsulates.
This film is chock-a-block with harm to children. Okay, so like, I mean, you have, and then the sadness of the tale where she calls out for her father
from the painting,
and then we see that she aged. She lived her entire life away from her family, trapped in this painting, knowing what's right in front of her, but she can never be a part of again. That is horrific. Like, that is vile torture. And then on top of that, you have like the purple eyes and the knobbled hands and the square feet without the toes, and how, like, to them, like, the cleaner a child is, the worse it smells, and
so it's like dog
droppings. I mean, and it's pure Roald Dahl. It really is, like, that's why I loved him. reading
And
him as a kid.
and then you have the scene with the raising the treehouse.
Yeah.
And that kind of just really touched on the nose of, like, you're always told when you were a child, like, don't take rides from strangers, that whole thing. So even if she wasn't a witch, that'd still be a disturbing scene. It just adds to it that she is a witch. It just adds another layer
I
to it.
wonder in some ways. Well, no, I was about to say in some ways is it more creepy as an adult than as a child. But this film traumatized me as a child. When I watched it as a child, I didn't really have nightmares, and I'm talking like as kids we watched. Friday, well, not Friday the 13th, but we definitely watched Nightmare on Elm Street. Definitely watched It, the 1990 miniseries. Definitely watched bits of Hellraiser, Halloween, Jaws.
Yeah.
Like films like young kids aren't supposed to watch. We watched them all. This film they didn't give me nightmares. This film gave me nightmares, and I think it is because the children are in danger. And like as I said, like when she comes to him when he's up in the tree. Like it has real child predator vibes off of it. It's really disturbing.
And then when she says, like, when he's crawling up his grandmother, the way she kind of says, he can't, or she can't hear you, almost reveling in it, like,
and preying on his innocence. It's really unnerving. It's really really well done. I have to say, it's very powerful stuff.
I was wondering, like, how Alex and them, like our nephew, obviously people don't know who he is, but how they'd kind of take to it, our nephews and nieces. Because
he's like 10, so like around that age, so 8, 9, 10.
Like, I'd say he'd be okay to watch, but I'd say there'd be a little bit of him, the back of his head going, that was kind of, weird, The
back of his head, and then when Ernst peels her face off, the front of his face is going to be in shock because she looks unbelievable, horrifying, decrepit. She looks like a combination of like a ragged old woman with a vulture mixed with what a vulture would eat on, the dead carcass of an animal's like skin boiling in the sun of the Sahara Desert. That is one of the most gruesome makeup jobs I've ever seen. Jim Henson, he pulls it out of the bag with this. Unbelievable.
And it's interesting because I think that's the moment then where they do kind of balance it with a bit of humor, the way she kind of addresses the other witches. I do think there is some humor in the witches as well. Although I will say, when that one witch kind of talks out of turn, like, how are we supposed to take out all the kids?
Yeah.
And she you see her head kind of go, who said that?
Yeah.
I almost kind of felt scared for the witch.
You do,
even though
they're
trying
she's
to
vile as well.
Yeah.
No, but that's the power that she commands. With or without that costume.
Before even they come in, when he walks into that room, there's something kind of, I don't know, kind of give me a Shining vibe about it. Just this empty room, and he's walking up, and kind of just the silence, the dead silence of it. I don't know if that was even intended or not, but I kind of felt a little unnerving. Josie's walking in with the mice, and he's like just fine. He's playing away, not thinking anything of it. We just see all these chairs, and there's just no one in the room. It just kind of.
There are large parts of this film where it does not feel like a kids' movie.
Yeah.
It feels like a genuine, straight-up horror film. And that would be unnerving in a film aimed at adults.
But then I think, for me, I completely agree with you in that. I feel when you could turn into a mouse, you kind of lose that a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It just, I would have preferred more, when it's him as a child, it's like we're saying about the treehouse, him as a child, it's more personal. But when it's like a mouse, it turns into more of an adventure, which I think it really shifted the tone. And I feel maybe I would like to see more of Ava and the grandmother, because they seem to have a kind of a history about him, which we'll get into with the characters as well.
Yeah.
I feel they lost it when they went into the mice, which I thought was a shame.
I agree.
It was fine. It wasn't like that. I didn't think the rest of it was any good or anything. I just felt that it became a different film almost in a way to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're dead right. It becomes an adventure movie. Up until then, it's straight up horror film, and then it becomes an adventure movie with moments of horror.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, before he turns into a mouse, there's the baby scene.
Jeez.
My God, and it's that subtle.
It's so nonchalant when she pushes it. It's not a second thought to her.
She just feels like pure evil.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're talking earlier about putting a child in peril. Pushing a baby down a hill like is such a subhuman act, and she does it with glee, and she does it knowing that he is pure enough to go and try and save the baby and risk his life and risk being exposed.
Yeah.
She's doing it purely just to get forward in the next in trying to get him. Vile, yeah.
And you know as well, like I found I wasn't sure, but like I mean, at the very end where the assistant witch she like turns him back into a human. I felt like she was helping him, but the way she kind of approached the house, I kind of felt like was there something else going on there? Because the laugh she gave seemed evil, but she helped him, like she turned him back into a human.
Yeah, I'd say
I
that
felt
was
like
just
it didn't pay off. Like
I'd say it was a red herring.
Yeah.
They want you to think, oh no, what's going to happen now? She's going to hurt them, and then
Yeah,
oh no,
yeah.
and you did notice like she's blonde and she is wearing white. Like maybe she was a white witch in secret, but like
Yeah.
she's laughing earlier when poor
Yeah, she
Bruno
is.
goes through one of the most grotesque transformations I've seen on screen. I swear to God, it is. If you have not seen this film, it is up there with American Werewolf in London. Like that's what I thought of when I saw Bruno transform. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrendous. This is truly disturbing. Like I mean, yeah,
Also,
yeah.
when his tail gets chopped a bit.
Yeah.
Was it Luke's tail? That was like,
Wow.
oh no! I was like, God, that's
What rating is this movie?
PG probably.
I mean,
Remember in the scene with the cat? That was kind of creepy.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. I mean, I'm just checking here. You keep talking while I'm checking this.
No, just when his grandmother's kind of when he's down into because Ava's room is directly below Helga's room, and she's kind of taking him down to try. I think it's to get the powder things or to destroy him or whatever, or put some in.
Yeah, he wants to put them into the soup.
Yeah, the soup. Yeah, but then the cat, her cat trying to attack him, like it was pretty.
It's PG.
It's PG. Yeah.
In America, that would be what, PG-13, I think. I don't know. No, what's? I don't know. We're working off the Irish system. I'm not sure what the equivalent of PG in America is.
Basically, it's like if you're under 12, you have to like get parents' permission, kind of, to watch it.
Which sounds like PG-13 to me, but I feel like PG-13 is more 15s here.
Yeah. But I think PG would be the right way to go. I think I would, if I was a parent, watch it first just to see.
Yeah, I
child
think
be up for it.
I don't think 10, 11, because 11-year-old child might be able to walk into this. I don't think they should without the parents knowing what's going on.
No, some 10, 11-year-olds be fine with it. Just you never know what way they'll react to it.
No, of course. I mean, look, like. It's all about the parents understanding what the child is and isn't capable of watching and understanding. But back to the movie, I thought the special effects in it was amazing. Obviously, with the witches transformation, even the ball caps and the scabbing and the knobbly fingers and everything. But even also, the mice I thought looked great.
Yeah, oh no, they didn't. They looked really good.
Yeah, and just some of the kind of special effects, just briefly, I thought looked great, and then the transformation of Ernst to the rat mouse thing, again, like horrendous imagery, and then you got Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, just chopping her in two with a knife. Again, like there's no holds barred. It's just straight up, as Shakespeare would say, he cleft her in twain. It's an intense movie and perfect for the season, for the horror season. No qualms
a lot
about
of witch kind of horror films. Like I know there's Blair Witch Project. Suspiria is a classic. But I don't know. There's not a lot. I must watch or read. Actually, I still have the Witches, the graphic novel. I haven't.
Oh yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, that's good. I can't remember who wrote that now.
There's a second volume on it, I think, as well.
Was there?
Yeah.
I must get around to that. But overall, I thought The Witches was the most intense kids family-friendly horror film that I can imagine watching. To be honest,
I think for me the in particular that story she tells,
Yeah, that as you say, that story could be its own
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
And actually, there is an episode of Night Gallery where a guy gets trapped in a painting. Obviously, Night Gallery, if you're not aware, it was Rod Serling who created the Twilight Zone. Did a follow-up series in like what, the 70s, I think it was. And each episode had a story tied to a painting. Um, check it out if you haven't watched it, and the Twilight Zone as well. Great stuff. But
Hocus
yeah,
Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah. Well, I'll just go straight into it, like kind of on the back of what we were saying about Sarah and the song, like just seeing the shot of Emily running in the woods with Sarah. It's just undeniably creepy, and again that thing of like a child being taken, giving their trust in an adult, someone of and then kind of that trust inevitably being broken, being duped. Kind of like what Pennywise does, where he makes it seem like he's your friend, but
Pennywise from It.
from it, yes. So, but again, like that kind of thing, like where he, inviting you in, and you think it's going to, friend seems to be a friendly, and then like, the real intentions will be shown, and even then how they kind of hover over her, when Binks kind of just peeks in, around her, and then you see it later with Danny as well, the way they kind of circle her, they're like sharks, but
Yeah,
sorry, yeah, you can,
I think yeah, I think the opening scene is probably the most intense of the film. You feel, like you say, when you're seeing, Sarah. Well, first of all, Sarah going in, sweeping in, and calling that is eerie, as it is later on as well. But when she's just holding Emily's hand, and you know what she has in store for Emily. Again, it's like it's that broken trust. Like pretty much all adults, have an innate instinct to care for children. It's just something that we can't control. Just we want to make sure that children are okay, and we feel awful when they're in danger, and that's why it's so powerful. It brings up powerful feelings in us, and when you see an innocent person or creature being abused or about to be, or their trust being abused, you just feel so angry, and you feel pain at seeing that, and it conveys that very well, and you conveys Binks's panic and fear for his little sister, and even in the confrontation with Winnie and them. Obviously there are comedic elements there, but it's quite intense still. It sets them up very well,
and they're very sadistic. The fact that like they turn him into a cat, like death would have been better for him,
Yeah, it's
but
torture.
like it's just like to remind him forever, like you failed to save your sister, and they take glee in that.
Even the book, which was gifted from Satan himself, and I'm surprised they got away with Disney having, because usually,
but that eye opening is creepy as well, though.
well, that book is straight up Evil Dead.
Yeah, it's really.
I mean, like that's got to be a tribute to Evil Dead.
Yeah, and even any time you see kind of like Max or them kind of interacting with it, you get that feeling that like, don't mess with this book. This book is. Even Finks warns them like, not to open it. But you get the feeling that it's just dangerous, and you don't mess with it.
Yeah, and even I like the black flame candle is made from the fat of an executioner. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
The black flame, the special effects could have been a little better to clear what they're doing there, but
But just before we go on, just one little bit on with Emily. If you notice in the background, after she's like they've taken her soul, you just see her like head draped over and her hair just down over her face, and like you can literally see it. Like there's a dead child on screen.
Yeah, it's not often you see that in a Disney movie.
Again, for quite disturbing imagery.
Yeah, I even like this. Like I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but seeing her soul being consumed is a very dark image.
Yeah, and even at the end of the film, I always found creepy as well, like the way she kind of like kind of growl on when she grabs Max, trying to finish him off. I always found that very disturbing as well. Like again, same thing, literally trying to take his soul.
Yeah,
there's something very unsettling just looking at that.
Yeah, it's an extremely dark concept to eat someone or consume someone's soul.
Yeah. Their march in the hallway. Because they do it earlier in the film, and I think it's funnier, but in the hallway, especially Sarah. There's a look on her face. I don't know. Maybe it's
I don't know.
because she's.
I always laughed when I saw them doing
No, when you do it on the road in particular, it's very funny. But you see
yeah.
them on the hallway, maybe because it's the lights and it's
Yeah.
echoey. I don't know. I
didn't
find
strike me now, but yeah, it struck you.
Well, yeah, I was thinking like if I heard that, if I was in one of the other classrooms, I
Sure.
heard that, or if I just saw that coming at me, something again about long corridors, I have a thing about that. But particularly Sarah in that moment, just this look on her face. I don't know, maybe is it because she's attractive or something, but there's something creepy about it. I don't know, I can't explain it. I just remember that moment, I was like, she looks disturbing there,
One of the images that stood out for me, actually, of the entire film was the shot of them flying over Salem at night.
Yes, amazing shot.
That's a great.
Yeah.
I wish they kind of had utilized that a little more in the film because it looked so good.
Yeah, it looked amazing.
And the fact that you kind of were getting this wide shot of Salem, them kind of soaring over it, kind of the power that they have over the entire town.
Yeah.
They have all the parents are singing and dancing all night, and they're free to just do whatever they want with the kids, which again is very Pied Piper.
Yeah. And even that view of the kids kind of just like in that kind of just dead trance, just being summoned. Like there was something very, and even some of them were still
reminded me of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, there was something very.
Yeah, that shot when you see them sort of
approaching they're all
the
coming to the house. Yeah, completely. I can see that. Yeah, definitely. I thought that was just again, just dark kind of imagery. But even, do you know bit then as well? Do you know when they come into the house when they find where they've been opening the book, and you see Winnie's kind of her nail kind of cutting through the net on the window. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, yeah.
And then just that kind of whole thing when they hear the noise and they go back up. Just it's kind of that classic horror kind of situation, and Sarah kind of pops up. They're sadistic, even though they're funny. They're sadistic and evil as well. Like
they are. A dead man's chunks. I just that's not scary. I just wanted to say it.
I was like, Sarah, you're in the back dancing idiotically.
What I love about that bit is where she's trying to think of it, and like Sarah says, "A dead man's."
She's right.
She's right,
yeah,
and like they're shushing her.
Yeah,
sure.
like, she's trying to concentrate.
I like that.
That was great.
Okay, I think are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first on this. I thought Hocus Pocus has some really good gothic imagery, particularly kind of at the tail ends of it. I think when Sarah's in her flow, it was weird because she's such a goofy character, but when she's on the job to lure those children, she is really creepy in this film. And she is the kind of the most. She is the image that kind of stand out to me, of the horror element of this film. But to be honest, it's not even close. Like The Witches is truly a disturbing film, like that I will not forget for a long time. I remember going in before we did this, before we watched The Witches. I hadn't seen it in it must have been 20 years, more, probably 25 years. And I remember thinking, God, I probably when you're a kid, you watch something and you watch as an adult, and you're like, what was I talking about? How is this weird and creepy and scary? No, straight up. Young me was exactly right. It is a disturbing film. Yeah. You are right to have nightmares. I hope I don't have nightmares myself tonight. It's The Witches all the way.
Yeah, I think just for the story about Helga's friend Erica, I think just that for that piece alone, it gets it. That was just truly disturbing, that
but
whole.
Then you have, the look of Ernst throwing a baby down.
Oh no, yeah, of course, that's extremely chilling as well. But I just think that scene kind of, because again I said, like, I think that would be strong enough to have a story just on that piece alone, or a full movie on that alone. I just think for that, and again I think Hocus Pocus has like some really dark imagery, like I said, like Emily and seeing her just head caved over and them trying to eat people, like take their souls. There is some dark imagery and stuff with Sarah.
No, I agree. But so you're going with?
So I'll go with The Witches.
Cool. So that makes it 2-2 going into the home stretch. Round 3, characters. So, start off with Witches, of course. Who do I have? I have Bruno, Grandma, Ernst, and Luke.
I I had Luke, Helga, the grandmother, and I had Ava.
Yeah, I mean Bruno. I have literally two.
He has a couple of funny
I have
lines.
2 lines. Token fat kid, funny at times. That's literally what I have.
He had that one line where he said, like, I don't have to go to school, I can just stay in the cupboard. And then he has the line about, "Well, they didn't give me those 6 chocolate bars, remember?" So he had a couple of funny lines.
He's a comic relief.
Yeah.
He's a comic relief, and he does the job quite well. I do. He has that kind of charming, spoiled English brat from 1960s kind of vibe about him.
You could picture him in Willy Wonka.
Yeah, absolutely. He would be one of those kids up the pipe.
Yeah.
Along with Veruca and the rest of them. I thought he was a good character that was needed because it needed some lightness.
And I think Ron Atkinson had a few funny lines as well.
Oh yeah.
Like
he was,
the one where, what was the one with the one he's kind of seeing? What was that line? Oh God, about. No, I kind of won't come to me. There was a really funny line.
He has some great moments.
Yeah. There was one particular line. There was a really funny line, but I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, look, that's not going to come to me.
You lose. You get nothing. His character is again a much appreciated comic relief, and much needed because the film is so heavy in parts. Grandma, she's like kind of a little odd. She kind of struck me she's quite like it's kind of hard to pin her down. She's quite intense, and I kind of going in. Again, I'd forgotten a lot of the movie except all the horrific imagery.
Yeah.
I forgot kind of what role she played in the film, and I was expecting her to be more of kind of a stronger character in some ways, like that she would kind of go up against Ernst, the kind of mano a mano type of thing.
Yeah, I feel they because they built that, but then it didn't. There was no
pay
payoff on it at all.
And I wonder, again, maybe I'm giving them too much of the benefit of the doubt, but I wonder, like, she seems genuinely terrified. Like she's genuinely scared of Ernst. She she's reluctant. Like Luke is always pushing her to do the plan about. Yeah. She just wants to go, just get out of there. I wonder if she's traumatized.
Yeah, because
from the story. I mean, Erica was one of her friends when she was a kid. Like, would you ever forget that?
But didn't she say like she hunted the Grand Witch, so I wonder did they ever encounter? Because remember she lost half of her baby finger.
Yeah. There's subtle things where they lay and then they never really bring back up.
Just at the beginning, I just said that I remember I was thinking, I was like, well, it's weird. Like, why is she telling Luke these stories about these witches? But then I thought she probably needs to tell him because there are witches out there and he needs to know these things. So then I was like, no, that actually makes sense. She does need to tell him that. I thought that was like a really nice bond between her and Luke. One thing I didn't get though was, do you like that scene in the treehouse where the witch comes and she goes off and he's like, "Grandma, I just saw a witch," and like within 2 minutes they're just like, "Oh yeah," it's like whatever. This is a very weird, like, just lukewarm reaction to it. Like, I mean, the witches, like, we know the damage and how dangerous and how much of a threat they are to children, but like the two of them just like fob it off within 2 minutes. Like, there was a witch encounter. Like you saw, like. A dangerous snake or something, like, geez, that whatever. I don't know.
No, I agree, and the film has elements of that as well later on after Luke is turned into I'm going to Luke territory, but anyway, he gets turned into a mouse. He takes it in his stride, like really, really well. Like, there's no crying, there's no
this is my life forever now.
There's no trepidation even. He's like, well, okay, better just get on with my job. Gotta get revenge on the witches.
I thought she could have done a better job as well with telling Bruno's parents that he was a mouse. I thought, maybe that was for comedic effect. I think it was funny. Like,
actually, he's great. Bruno's dad.
Yeah, he was funny as well. And so was the mother. I thought
they both pretty well. Like, a lot of great character moments in it, like great, like little points where like a character like gets a moment to shine, a line here or a little moment there. Not a huge amount of in-depth character development. More so moments.
I feel just kind of there's inconsistencies, kind of like in
Will we go on to Ernst?
No, this is another bit I had.
Okay,
I thought it was interesting that she said she tried to hunt the High Witch, and I would have liked to have heard kind of more about her past, and how she
Yeah.
lost her finger. Because I thought there was a lot of potential for her to push on from what we get at the start kind of about her. I would have liked maybe a little more flashbacks about her, maybe other encounters she had with witches. Because I think in the book, they do a bit more about how the threat of witches, what they've done to other
Yeah, I can't
kind of
remember now. I
children.
read the book
I heard something
many,
about that.
many years
Yeah.
ago, but
But again, kind of like that story with Erica, I think the film could have even focused on her telling him about when she was a child.
yeah,
That could have been the film.
it could well have been. Yeah, it could have been.
I just feel that there could have been more they could have brought to her. 'Cause
I
I think there
agree.
was potential there, but they didn't fully utilize it.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, there is a lot of lost potential with her and her past, and even Erica. More of Erica's story,
Yeah.
which we both agree was like such a
With
great
a high point of the film. Like.
idea and execution. And even like just briefly, and actually, yeah, we're going to Ernst now. It was Ernst. So when she arrives in the hotel and she goes over to that painting and she like taps on the image
Yeah.
of another little girl
And she's like, not. She
or a
knows.
boy, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then he disappears, like he's obviously just died.
Yeah.
He's obviously she's just doing this all over the place. Like she's just truly vile,
Yeah.
vile.
She
creature.
has a couple of fine lines as well, like
She
when
does.
she's like, "Oh, you look amazing." It's like, I wish I could say the same about you. It's just like just this dismissive. She's so
Yeah.
kind of suave and sophisticated,
Yeah.
which is a great. She's hiding like obviously what she truly is, both physically and I guess kind of in how she is as a person. Or
Yeah,
as a,
no. And
know.
it's funny that like a character so vile can make you laugh, but she does.
She does, yeah.
And again, it is testament to Angelica Houston's performance.
But do you remember what you said earlier about the tea time scene where she's looking over at
Luke
and Helga. It's just even just the look she gives. She looks creepy in her eyes. She looks, there's something
everything
about her.
about
like,
her,
yeah.
everything about her is unsettling.
Yeah, I think because Josh is saying, I think I know her, or I recognize her. And again, it's back though to that thing you were saying where they're building this thing between them, but it's just a pity that it didn't pay off in the end because you're intrigued, like there's that kind of stare down almost. And there's another one later in the film in the lobby before they're having dinner. She looks at Helga. There's that kind of moment where they hold the gaze, and you kind of hope it's just a pity that it didn't push on with that.
They're setting it up, and then there isn't a payoff,
No.
and it is annoying because
Yeah.
you're waiting for that and you're hoping for that. And even like when Grandma is lowering Luke down to the apartment, or the room below to steal the potion, and they look up and they meet, their eyes meet again. And also she's in the room earlier, and when she grabs Luke from it, and there's that an old acquaintance or something like that. She says about so like there's so much build up, and then there's no
Again,
payoff.
I think a flashback would have been great, like because I feel like they must have met before or something because you recognize her. It would have been.
It does feel poorly structured.
I like that the other witches are terrified of her. She commands respect and like. It's kind of like how Mary idolizes Winnie in Hocus Pocus. Is that kind of thing? Complete suck-ups, anything she wants. Oh, you were like amazing. You're amazing. It's.
But I have to say, and a very, very dark thought struck me when I was doing the notes tonight. Thinking about it, and I was trying to like capture. I was like, what is this? What are they remind? What are the witches and Ernst in particular reminding me of in this? And their quest. And I'll be honest, what I kind of had this moment. I'm like, oh my god, they're like Nazis. Like she is like Hitler, and they're like Nazis. And to them, the children are like the Jews. They just want to kill them, just get rid of them. Like it's bizarre to make that comparison in a Roald Dahl film, a kids movie. But like
they're trying to wipe them all out.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting, and not even just like the whole wiping them out, which obviously is a connection, but then that feel of evil that they have when they're on screen, like it is really, really creepy. Like I mean, it does genuinely feel like you're seeing pure hate on screen. And I know that sounds dismissive of what we're talking about. I'm not in any way being dismissive of the Holocaust or in any way, shape, or form, but that's weirdly the vibe I was getting from it. Like when I see Nazis portrayed on film, I feel the same way about those characters as I did about the witches in this. They're truly disturbing on a gut level, so off-putting. They just feel like pure evil.
Another thing I like, just you were talking earlier about the design of the makeup or the kind of prosthetics kind of used when she reveals her true self. I love that there's like hair on her nose as well. It's like just everything about her is just like
bubbly back and everything. I mean, it's like it looks like it looks like a dead carcass left in the sun, just bubbling away, merged in with some rancid vulture and a woman.
I imagine she's very, very old,
Oh,
I think they established that, don't they? I think she has
well, I
the
mean,
High Witch is a very something. I think
well, I'm obviously, I mean, like she has memories of, I'm sure, Helga when she was younger, probably as a child and well before that. But Luke, we're going to Luke. So he's kind of very just a typical hero of a movie. Like he's inquisitive and he's brave and
very inquisitive and very brave.
Very brave.
Yeah.
And he, he's, as I said earlier, like he was willing to risk his own life to save the baby and stuff like that. Like so he's.
I think as well. You touched on. You said earlier about like how he's kind of he pushes, his grandmother on to kind of to go through with taking out the witches. He's kind of that that shoulder of support for her almost.
Yeah.
Even though he's the one who's mouse now, like so
no,
it's
of
even
course,
more
and like he's after that, of course, and then also his parents have just died. And you do feel for him, and that scene in itself is very dark as well. When the police arrive and they tell Helga, I've been calling her grandma the whole time.
I always thought when I was younger, because I remember vaguely that the witches killed them, but I think they just had a car crash.
No, it was just a car crash. So you feel for him in that moment, and then he springs back, and he's good to his pets, his mice, and he's training them, and he's kind to them, and he's just a really lovable kind of kid. Although I have to say, he did feel a little flat to me. He wasn't quite as charismatic as I would like the main protagonist of a movie to be. Like I know it's very unfair to compare, but I did feel like he was really overshadowed by Angelica Houston, which I know most people in the world would be in a film with her. But it's very unfair to compare a child to one of the greatest actresses of all time.
Like I think like my favorite bits with him were just kind of when he was just there with his grandmother and they were talking about the witch, like that kind of moments, and even when they were kind of grieving. There's that moment where she kind of takes him in, they kind of hug.
Yeah, they're very human moments.
Yeah, they were very nice moments.
When it becomes that adventure story, it kind of loses me.
Yeah, when he becomes the mouse, I just kind of... Just because they set it up one way and then that's the tone, and then it just...
It feels like two movies mixed together.
Yeah, and like, and films can work where you have a hybrid of things, but I just think it went way too much another way. Like, what's that film... even kind of like Stuart Little or something had that kind of feel about it, Just
it did
like
in bits,
So
it felt quite Disney in the second half. Although there were moments certainly where it's not, but way more Disney than the first half, which is in no way Disney.
And I still think if he had been him as in child, even if he went back to being a child before the end, for the final kind of showdown. It would have been better, I think. I just think the fact that he's a mouse, it makes it less personal. I think you lose a bit of him in a way,
Yeah.
I think the film kind of hurt a little bit from that as well.
Yeah, and obviously they're tied to the book in a lot of ways. Although they do make a major change, because in the book he stays a mouse. He doesn't turn back.
Does he? Yeah. I kind of thought he was going to stay a mouse, to be honest, because I couldn't remember the ending.
Yeah, and I agree with what we were saying earlier, like the white witch thing. That was all very odd because she was cackling away when Bruno.
But even when she does it, she gives like an evil laugh. Like I'm not saying she was
laughing.
I
think it's more at Ernst.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd say because she turned very easily. Like she's cackling away as Bruno's been turned.
But she tells her like you're not coming down or something.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh, you're not coming to dinner." Like, okay, right then, I'm going to betray everything I've done for the last 300 years to go and get revenge for you after you die. It's like, what? Okay, that felt a bit very clunky. That ending. Even though, it was a nice scene with Luke and his grandmother, but the whole her reason for doing it just all felt very easy. But it was a great setup they had for going to America to take down all the other witches.
And again, that kind of showed his courage, that he's it's his idea. We should go to America now and help these kids because we've saved the kids in England, so now let's go to America and do it with them.
I wouldn't have minded seeing a sequel actually.
I would love if they did a prequel, to be honest.
Well,
Go back. That's
yes,
something
I would
really
prefer
great.
the prequel. Yes, I would.
You could
But,
pretty consider they're doing the remake that's coming out. No, like a prequel would have been a great idea. Just
oh
on,
god,
you know.
I saw the trailer. We saw the trailer for. It looks terrible. It just look. Especially, I mean, like, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm judging it based on the trailer. It's just I know it's no way going to be as dark as this film was, and I just feel like, what's the point? Like, why do that? I know they're changing location and changing the timeline, so maybe there's something they'll bring to it with that. But it feels very Disney on the
Yeah.
trailer, and not in any way this dark, intense kids horror movie, that a family friendly horror movie that 1990s The Witches was. I don't see myself watching it, to be honest. It doesn't look too interesting. But we're going to Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'll just get a brief comment on some of the smaller roles for
Okay.
because like Jay and Ernie. We got to give them a mention.
oh, sorry. Don't you mean Bulk and Skull? Oh, sorry. Don't you mean Bebop and Rocksteady?
I actually okay, but People Are Steady, you're right, but I think it was that came up before Power Rangers, so.
Oh, no,
I know what
I
you
just
mean
mean
though,
that
I know.
trope.
But like the fact that they're just hanging around in the graveyard and just pop up, as it comes around, and like obviously the ice.
Sorry, Liam. It's not Ernie anymore. It's Ice.
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 And it's like ice shaving his back of his head. But like I love the fact that like, so they're obviously ganging up on Max, and then like he's like, you don't have any smoke, you don't have any cash. How am I supposed to spend my afternoons? And like, great comeback, like maybe you could learn to breathe through your nose. I love how Jay forgets whose side he's on, and just like genuinely, that's funny. I want to laugh.
You know what Jay reminds me of very much so in this is oh god, what's his name? He was in Freaks and Geeks with Seth Rogen. I gotta find this now. It's gonna drive me insane.
The main guy?
No. He's James Franco. Yes, he's in Spider-Man.
No, but is it James Franco you're talking about?
Yes, he reminds me of James Franco. He sounds like James Franco, and looks a little like him, but he really sounds like James Franco. And in Freaks and Geeks, he wears the leather jacket and everything. Very much kind of felt like, and although James Franco's character in Freaks and Geeks isn't a bully like that, but just had a James Franco vibe to it.
And he's in Stranger Things, Jay. He's like
what?
He's like one of the Asian guys working with Papa, and then I didn't notice that. Just someone had a picture. I was like, oh my god, it is him. Yeah, he's one of the agents kind of with them when they're knocking on.
Whoa.
They're talking to the
I
parents.
have to go back and look at that
yeah,
again.
Yeah. Like he's kind of a smaller role, but he's there.
I
like,
did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting factoid.
But yeah. Look, I'll actually be touching on them again when we talk about Max, so we can come back to them. But I saw that. Yeah.
We're going to Allison.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to say the parents I kind of thought were kind of cool as well, and I guess
Not
Billy.
really a whole lot about them in the movie.
No, but they were kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, Billy as well, I suppose, would be just a quick mention on him.
Oh, Billy, yes,
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
I
like Billy actually.
I do when you learn what happened to him. Like,
you know what? In a lot of ways, he goes on a real character journey throughout the film. Like when he starts off, he's this. Like you hear about the sad story about how he was with Winnie and then cheated on her, Winnie with Sarah. So Sarah murdered him, sewed his lips.
I think it was Winnie did it.
Winnie murdered him, and then sewed his lips shut, so he couldn't even talk about it in death. And buried him, and then wakes him up as a zombie. And the special effects, he looks amazing.
Oh, fantastic!
Like the perfect kind of family-friendly zombie that you could do.
Even the way he kind of goes like kind of stuff, it's just like great, like
But then as he progresses throughout the movie, and he finally gets to open his mouth, and we see that he's quite a tragic character.
Yeah.
And that he's not evil. He was just
And I think the whole time he wasn't trying to hurt him. He was just trying to like communicate.
Probably that's probably the whole point is that he didn't want to, and that's why he turns with them. So and he
And you're glad he does. Like you're like, yes, another one on the team, kind of,
Well, obviously you want the protagonist to win and the antagonist to lose. It would be a poor story if you're cheering for the witches. But yeah, no, I like Billy. His story it's a nice arc he goes through, and a nice ending for him.
Yeah.
But Allison.
Oh, Allison. Eh?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I felt her character is a bit flat. She's like the least developed of the kind of the main characters in the movie. Um,
Yeah, good. You could
yeah,
go
so
with that.
like she's sincere, and she loves sharing her interests, in history and in Halloween and traditions and all of that, and her knowledge is invaluable in
Yeah.
in defeating the Sanders and sisters. She's a very strong character. She's not really afraid. I mean, she's obviously afraid at times, but like she's just as strong as Max is in a lot of
Yeah.
situations, and knows a lot more than he does in a lot of situations.
And yeah, she does kind of stand up and try to protect them.
Yeah, no, absolutely
and
she does.
and she also she's very reassuring. Like when they think Binks was killed by the
Yeah.
bus, Max kind of like blaming himself, and she's kind of like, "Oh, it's not your fault." She's trying to keep them together. Like she's kind of the rock in some ways. I think.
You're right.
She's a
She
cool head
is.
on her
And
shoulders.
for Danny as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I love that kind of shot of her just as the kind of Max running up to her at the start of the movie to give her his number.
Yeah.
And she's wearing she looks like a little bit Red Riding Hood.
Yeah,
I'm
with
sure
the
it was a
hood.
nod
Yeah,
to her
yeah.
going into the
Yeah.
into the forest, into the trees.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, she kind of comes. She's she's not phased. When he gives her the number, she's very cool about it. Like she doesn't she's not like annoyed at him or anything. She just kind of passes it off, kind of, and plays it cool, which I thought was kind of nice as well. So I'm sure some people would have been annoyed if you did that in class. I give him the number.
she's quite a cool character, as in she acts quite cool.
Yes, cool headed. Like yeah. No, because that's what I meant. Yeah, but yeah, just going back to what you said about her knowledge of kind of history of the town and the sisters. It brings something else to the group, kind of that they needed.
I just have like to see her character go on more of a journey.
Mm.
She starts and ends at the same place.
Yeah.
I know she's more of it's Max and Danny and then the witches. Like there's only so much room in the movie,
yeah.
and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think and she's kind of the love interest for Max as well.
Yeah,
like
of course,
yeah.
but
She is valuable as well, and she does come up with good ideas. Like she lures them into the oven thing. And it's still again just kind of. She is a valuable
She is probably
member.
the smartest of the group. Of them, her and Binks.
Well, I remember when I was younger, I was like. I remember watching this film. I was like, oh, I want to be like Max, and that's the kind of girl I want to have. That's what it was for me. When I was a child, that was it.
Yeah, well, but she's a good character.
Yeah, she plays her part in it.
Danny.
Yeah.
Danny is my favorite character in the movie.
And this is kind of with her and Max. They encapsulate that sibling dynamic brilliantly. I think it really comes across.
I think, to be honest, more so Danny. I think Thora Birch's performance is fantastic.
She was 8 or something.
Yeah,
or she was 10, I think, but still, she playing 8. But
you can see that what she was going to go on to achieve. It was clear from even then that she was extremely talented.
But I love how she is a child in this. I think that she inadvertently embarrasses Max so much, but thinking she's helping. For your information, he's a little eager. Oh, you're wrong. Actually, he's not the new kid on the block.
I love that.
All this kind of stuff, and she doesn't realize that she's just making it 10 times worse.
Yeah, no, and just to go back just a little bit to what you were saying about the dynamic between the two of them as brother and sister, straight away, she's really charming, but totally believable as the annoying little sister that he's got to and he's no, he's stroppy teen.
Yes,
she's no, you gotta take me, mom and dad said, and do they have that good dynamic going on?
Yeah.
But you so easily those kid characters can be very annoying, and you're just oh God, I hope you get killed.
Yeah.
But she is in no way that.
No, she's not.
I liked her straight away, and obviously this is a movie that we've seen plenty of times, especially growing up.
Yeah.
I remember, and I'm not joking. This is a factoid for you. I remember Liam and our younger brother Shane acting out the entirety of this film from start to finish from memory.
That's true.
I don't know, was it toys or teddy bears or something?
Something like that.
I don't know what age you were, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old.
About that.
And they acted out the entire movie, every piece of dialogue by every character from start to finish. So we know this film quite well. Liam probably knows it a little bit better than I do, but I know it quite well. But I hadn't seen it in about 15 years or so. But
Yeah, just another comment on like so we're saying like how she kind of inadvertently, just by being a child, it kind of embarrassed him. Like again, the comment about like with Alison, like Max loves your yabos, he loves them. Again, that kind of stuff. Just like not realizing what she's doing, just being a child, just saying what.
I think she did there.
There, maybe. Okay.
I think she did.
Okay.
Because like even she's a little quip she's saying about like, couldn't you take her to the cinema like a normal person? Like she's kind of clued in as well. I think she knew what she was doing there. She's trying to get the upper hand on him so she could use leverage.
But she's also quick thinking with the witches. So when they bring them back, and she kind of pops up and she's like, "I thought the day would never come, sisters. It was I who brought you back." Trying to be kind of charming and kind of get on their side.
Like Alison, she's a very quick thinking character on her feet. Under pressure. My favorite aspect of her in the movie was her relationship with Binks.
Yeah, that's really good as well. Yeah.
I really felt that from both sides.
Yeah, because he obviously sees. We'll get into it, but he obviously sees Emily in Danny.
Of course. Yeah, but I'll be honest. I felt the relationship between Danny and Binks and Emily probably more than I felt it between Danny and Max. I have to say. I mean, it was there as well, but I felt I cared more about Danny and Binks than I did between Danny and Max.
Yeah, no,
that's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think it really worked as well, and there was a real. I think as well because Binks was kind of what he'd been through as well, like for so long. Everything he kind of expected. Actually, we didn't touch on Binks yet.
Not yet, no.
Yeah. I definitely was there with him as well, and I was going to get to that. That the relationship between her and Binks is really strong as well, and you really feel her pain when he dies. Like when he essentially he passes on. With the cat and that.
Yeah.
But then she's also really brave. Like she defends Max when Winnie when they're in the house when she attacks him with her kind of whatever the electrical kind of whatever thing she has, she stands up and defends Max, so she's brave as well.
She is, absolutely, yeah.
And she's not shy to tell Winnie that like you're
ugly.
You're ugly. Yeah, basically, yeah.
She really hurt my feelings.
She doesn't shy away from it, like. And then sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say as well, didn't that kind of like. Unlike Max, like she's been able to settle in well in the town. Just she's made friends, and she's embracing Halloween. So just kind of, I like that they're coming at her from different aspects. Like we'll get onto with Max how he kind of is finding his new town.
But yeah, and then obviously, well, I suppose when Binks dies, and you really feel her pain.
You do, yeah.
And then the release when she realizes that Binks is not alive, but he's moving on to a better state of existence, and he's finally at peace.
Yeah.
And he's with his sister.
Yeah.
It's a lovely moment when he goes over to her and just says goodbye. And it's probably the most powerful part of the movie.
Yeah, I know it is a great moment in it, and I guess we'll kind of go on to Binks.
Yeah.
He's the most tragic character.
That's exactly what I have.
Like,
an extremely tragic figure.
That again I kind of alluded to earlier about like when he puts the spell on him to remind him forever of his failure and guilt. She says like live forever with his guilt at not being able to
save
her.
Starting off, you see your sister being murdered by witches, and then you're transformed into a cat for the rest of eternity. And then, you're dismissed by your parents, because of your transformation. They don't realize. And I often used to wonder why didn't he speak there, but maybe he was too in shock to speak, or maybe he hadn't learned how to re-speak or something. But when his father, banishes him, tells him to go away, you really feel for him in that moment.
And also, I love the scene where, when they think they've killed him the first time, the witches. And he has a great moment with Max where, Max says, you can't keep blaming yourself. It was so long ago. And he says, take care of Danny. You'll never know how precious she is until you lose her. He sees Emily in Danny, but then he sees himself and Max in the situation of to protect his sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he really sees that.
You see in that moment as well that really, he's been in consistent state of mourning for 300 years,
Yeah.
which is quite a horrific, concept of just being never-ending
Yeah.
pain,
Yeah, not
like
completely.
emotional pain.
Yeah. I do love though, didn't it, where as he's running off and Max just says to him, like, where are you going? Because you're Dennison now, you're one of us, That's kind of a nice moment, and she can kind of,
And that's kind of that's when you first really feel that proper connection between him and Danny and Max and Allison as well.
Yeah.
But you can see that he's still longing for the release of death.
Yeah. And then you see again, like at the end, how he kind of sacrifices himself for Danny. He failed with Emily. He doesn't want to fail again. Like
Exactly.
So he was a really interesting.
And he
great
deserved
aspect.
his ending.
Yeah.
To get that moment with Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting factoid. I always thought it was Zachary Binks.
Thackeray.
Thackeray.
Yeah, it sounded you get it mixed up.
Weird. I never heard that name before, but yeah.
Yeah, no, later.
Okay, we move on to the witches.
Yeah.
So I have Mary first.
She's
judging by our
She's
laughter,
so
like
funny,
I just
man.
and this is funny.
Like
to say this for me, I've written down like the first 3 words are pure comic relief, but which is weird to say in a comedy movie. But she is like Winnie is a straight man,
yeah,
and she and Sarah are the 2 buffoons.
yeah. But I think all 3 of them do bring humor too. But I think Mary is there to have she's the most. I think she brings the most humor.
Yes.
Like just some of her lines, like just kind of like she's like first off she's Winnie's lackey.
Yeah,
she's
completely.
a complete suck up, but she's also terrified of Winnie. Do you want to hit me? Will that cheer you up? Just like these little things, like anything to please her, like.
Bye. Completely. Everything is about Winnie, and then she has that rivalry with Sarah.
Yeah,
they're always fighting, and then like 2 like unruly kids.
But she receives the most abuse from Winnie. Sarah gets a bit, but she gets a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's why she's so terrified of her. I love the bit one bit where she kind of goes against her. She was like, "Right, you're always right." Kind of like slightly kind of like rebelling almost.
But it's odd, and this applies to all 3 of them. But it's odd that characters that act in such a creepy manner can be so likable as well. Because there's plenty of times during this film where like you're not rooting for them, but you do feel
them in the moment.
Yeah, you're enjoying them, and you feel a like towards them.
Like when they think they've met Satan,
Yeah,
like that whole moment,
yeah.
like you're just enjoying it. Like this is great.
It's an enjoyable sequence. You laugh along. There's nothing. No one's in danger.
Yeah.
Well, except maybe his wife.
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, but like I love like how like where she thinks like she's lost her powers because like Winnie, I smell children, but I don't see children. I've lost my powers. And even in earlier results, she often like is accused of being wrong when she's not. Like Joe near the start, like where Binks arrives and she's like, I smell a child. She was right. Like when he's like, oh, what do you call that? A child.
Exactly.
She was actually right. Like there was another one there.
It's amazing the similarities. I remember when we picked these 2 movies, I hadn't thought about it, but like how close they were, but the whole smelling out of kids.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of overlap between the 2.
And I've heard, I don't know where I heard it from, but apparently that her father was like or something about like a bloodhound or something, and that's why she can smell so well or something. I don't know. It's something.
But there's nothing about that in the film though.
No, there's not. But someone had something about that. I don't know.
But I mean, that's probably just a fan theory nonsense, because like if it's not in the movie, then it's not there.
Yeah.
But Sarah?
No, this was one or 2 bits. What was the other line? Oh yeah, do you know when like so we said about like Sarah said like dead man's tongues, and like she's trying to concentrate, and then is it chungs or bongs, and then like Mary's like, there's no such thing as bongs. You're right. I'm right. Just like that was a win for her. Winnie was like so distressed, like you're right. I'm right. Oh, I'm right. Kind of. But then she does have kind of little moments. Not as much, but like she does have little moments where she's quite ruthless. Like when they have Danny, and she's like, stay for supper, and she's like, oh, I'm not hungry, and then Mary's like, well, we are. That kind of she's threatening there, and then even
there are.
And even then when they kind of grab Danny and Max is like saying, "Don't let her go." and Sarah's doing her. We get to like, oh, let me play with him, and then Mary's like, roast him, Winnie. Just like,
Yeah.
just doesn't know, just take him
Yeah,
out.
there's no remorse there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, she and all three of the sisters have it. Now, I think there's two things that I really liked and that I didn't like. Is that the fish out of water scenario? It works so well in so many moments. Like with the the burning rain of death and all that stuff. Quite fun moments. But
that was great. Yeah.
But all three of them have these moments where they use like puns on 20th century, late 20th century, terms that annoyed me.
Yeah.
And they were usually not funny as well. Like they were always, I thought, the least funny parts of the script.
Yeah.
Like when Mary says "shishka baby."
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, how would she know what a shish kebab is?
Yeah, no, I agree. That didn't really make sense. Or even like Winnie when Mac's driving the car and she's like, pull over, let's see your driver's
permit. Whatever. Like what?
Yeah. It's like,
how
would she know what that is? Yeah.
That irritated me, to be honest, because they didn't need it at all. I mean, like, and we'll go to Sarah maybe now.
Yeah.
Like one scene I really loved was when they go out to the road. It's a black river, and then they push Sarah out onto it. And again, I love those moments where they're discovering 20th century and what the world is like now.
Farewell, mortal bus boy.
Those fish out of water stuff work really well, and they're easy jokes, but they were done well.
Yeah,
they were pulled off well, and the actors, carry it very, very well. And obviously, it's not their fault; it's a script, but those puns I didn't like, and they felt cheap.
I think Sarah, in some ways, is the creepiest of the three. Actually, I think because there's times where she's so kind of carefree and just kind of like in her own world, and then when you see then her, when her as you said, when she's on the ball and on the job, it's very kind of like just. Whoa, jeez, I didn't see that coming. Like, it's very kind of, you're one level, then you're this level. It's like, geez,
she just turns.
When it comes to it, she really
180
is. Like,
at times to straight up, evil child hunter.
Yeah, no, she definitely has that. And even like the whole thing of like, which is being so Max, like, Joe, let me play with him. Like, there's something very, these guys are kids, they're 16, 17. There is something disturbing about that.
There is, there is definitely. And then again, like I was saying with Mary, like you have a character like that, and then you just can't help but laugh at her, just like I said, about on the road, or like when she's just poking, like Ice and Jay, and like,
or like why was I cursed with such serious or such dreaded sisters? Just lucky, I guess.
Yeah, they all have some great lines.
Or her reaction to when the little girl just goes, "Bless you," and she just shrieks in pain, like ah!
That was a great moment.
Do you know what I didn't get there? Do you know when I was younger I didn't pick up on it, but do you know when they're about to get on the bus, and he's like, I call it a bus, and then like its purpose, and then like to take women to their most forbidden desires, like we desire children, and then he just says, hey, that may take me a couple of tries, but I don't think that'll be a problem. Like, that went way over my head when I was a child, like that line,
Well, you think that was a reference to intercourse?
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, why? I think so.
A couple of stops, he said, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think it was a hidden. You could interpret it that way as well, but I think he was referring to like,
I didn't read it that way at all. But
maybe I'm wrong, but I think.
Could be right. You could be right.
But do you know what I noticed as well with Sarah? So do you know the bit where so Danny hits them with she's like the bag of candy when she's trying to help Max, when they're first in the house, and then Binks jumps on Winnie's shoulder, like kind of attacking her. And she's like, Sarah, get this beast off of me. If you actually look at Sarah, she's like just laughing. It's like the whole chaos of the situation just makes her giddy.
Yeah,
it's really strange.
She's Joe. She reminds me of a bit, even in looks as well. Is Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
There is a bit of that kind of enjoying the chaos,
the whole chaos
pure insanity type of to her. But yeah, she has some very funny moments. But she's, I agree with you, probably the darkest of the three at times. And it certainly has the darkest moment, I feel.
Well, like as we alluded to earlier with summoning them with the song,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like I mean
definitely.
that whole thing is just. I know we touched on, but I think just for with her, we should just briefly touch on it, that like it is really disturbing, like, you know, and just creepy, you know.
Sarah Jessica Parker, like I think it was her that was singing. It's a
It
beautiful
is. It's really
song.
beautifully
I
sung.
mean,
Yeah.
it's quite serene,
Yeah.
in a weird way as well. But Winnie,
Winifred Sanderson.
um,
I'll just one thing first. Despises children.
again similar to Ernst.
Yes.
And all of
Yeah.
them in it, but
Yeah.
like where like they're like holding their noses and trying not to get. Actually, Ernst and Winnie both have a moment where they try not to get sick. At the sight or talking about
saying,
children.
Yeah. Is it Winnie with the such a pretty little child? Or like you know, where like he's like hag, and then sisters, did you hear what he called you?
Yeah, I love that line. Yeah.
Or in the kitchen, when she walks in, you know, the guy who they think is the devil, and like, oh, a torture chamber. You know, she picks up the kind of the wooden
the mallet.
thing. Yeah. She
Um,
some great lines as well.
Yeah, and then like she's a character that has a very fragile ego.
Oh, completely.
Like she has to be the best.
Yeah.
She has to be first, and like Mary especially has to stroke her ego all the time.
Yeah.
Other she like I mean like when Danny calls her ugly. I mean the whole reason why, and to be honest, I think it's a bit tenuous, but the whole reason why she doesn't use Jane and Ice or the mountain of kids that are coming to the house
because of that.
because Danny called her ugly.
Yeah.
Now
She's very. I think that kind of falls in as well to like the whole thing with Billy, that like he went off with Sarah. I think she's very insecure about how she looks.
Yes, yeah.
Like if you notice in the house as well with the guy again who they thought was the devil, she's like preening herself in the mirror, just fixing her hair and that. I think she's very conscious of how she looks. You know, that's a big thing to her.
Yes, no, definitely. I just thought it was a bit of a stretch that she would risk like certain death. Like she could have just, eaten one of those kids and then lived to be another day and then go get Danny afterwards. Like Danny's not going anywhere if you're living forever. But
I think as well, just a little bit like Sarah, but you know when they grab Danny, so Sarah and Mary grab her, and you see Winnie kind of jogging along beside him, and she's got this kind of excitement and smile on her face at the terror of a child. Like she's so excited about it. Like there's something kind of very creepy about that. Like it's something you mightn't even notice, but I just kind of just spotted it. Like you see her kind of jogging along beside him with this like this delight at this like causing such fear, to a little child, like.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice that moment. But then obviously I put a spell on you, which we already discussed. But like, what a performance! What a moment! Just what an epic, just a moment of pop culture. Like I think anybody our age, will like always remember. And it's weird. Like the film was a flop in cinemas.
Yeah, I think part of that was that they released it in the summer because they were releasing what's it called? The Tim Burton film, Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, so that's why they released it back in the summer. But it was ridiculous releasing it in the summer. Like Jurassic Park was out then as well. Like so, it didn't have a chance. Like
but it did well on home.
Oh man, like
home release,
every year at Halloween,
it's a cult classic.
Yeah, like it's beloved. Like even like I was reading that like this year, I think in America, they re-released this month, and I think it made like 2 million in the cinemas or something. So it's still like a beloved film, It is. It's a classic, film to watch at Halloween. You were just talking about the song though with Winnie. One of my favorite moments in the whole film is when the guy is singing, that's Witchcraft, and he's like, "I put a spell on you, and now you're mine." The look she gives of like, "Are you joking me?" Just that look is one of my favorite moments in the whole film. I love it.
Yeah.
Just like, "Are you kidding me?"
But also that's the moment then when she realizes, okay, now I know what to do.
Yeah. Didn't like just how she kind of treats her sister. Like she treats him like crap.
Yeah. It's
just like
she's very abusive.
Yeah. And what's interesting is like So do you know when like Max drinks the potion, and she just says to him like, what a fool to give up thy life for thy sister, like isn't saying that like I would never ever put them before me in any way, shape, or form. That's what I kind of read from that.
Yeah, no, definitely. She's completely about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, what do you expect from an evil witch?
Yeah, no, exactly. I like as well that like, would you know when she's crying about like, she called her ugly, and then she just like Mary's there trying to make her feel better, and like she just uses Sarah's arm to wipe her nose. It's just like again, just like they're her like snot rags, basically.
Yeah. That's how she feels about them.
Yeah, but in the look of her, like she just looks,
She has a great look. What was it?
look.
I think she's based on was it Queen Mary?
Yeah, something like that. With the hair and everything. Like she
Yeah.
does look. She looks scary. Like
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And
No,
it-
she does a great look.
and
great look.
fantastic. All three of them, but particularly Bette Midler. Like she's really fantastic in the role. Like,
Yeah,
she's
she's. I read a quote that she said was up until that point in her career, that was like her favorite moment. She had the most fun doing Hocus Pocus of anything up until that point in her career.
which is good to hear. Like it's nice to hear.
It
that,
is,
'cause
and
it's such a good fun film to
they're
watch.
doing a sequel.
That's what I
next
hear.
year.
Yeah, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
I don't know. I'll be honest though, Bette Midler's so good, and I can't remember the actress who plays Mary.
Cathy and the Jimmy.
Yes, her surname always gets me.
Yeah.
Her and
Sarah
and
Jessica
Sarah Jessica
Parker.
Parker. I mean, all three were so good in the role, and they're all three coming back. So, like, if they were doing a sequel without them, then I would be like, absolutely.
Yeah, no, you couldn't.
So,
But I would be worried about new protagonists as well, because like, for me anyway, I'm really attached to.
Well, it's got to be kids.
Yeah, it has to be. I know there was a book thing where it was like Max and Allison's daughter or something that she's kind of the main character in it or something, which that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hey, look,
a connection kind of.
I'm hesitantly interested.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if it just didn't work at all.
Yeah, no. I'll wait for the trailer and I'll kind of make a semi judgment there. I hope it's good, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not.
Yeah.
But we'll go on to Max.
Hollywood. JR the third or John Ross.
John Ross Ewing. Yeah. He played Jim Ross or Jim Ross. JR's son in Dallas.
Yeah. And he's also in, which I really want to watch, and like people have said great things about it, Erie, Indiana.
Yeah, I've never
Which
seen it.
it looks like a lot of fun.
Of it back
Kind of
in
has a
the day,
Goosebumps kind of feel about
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
people who watched it said it was really good. I'd like to check it out. It could be a cool thing to watch actually during up to Halloween.
I think I've seen an episode of it years and years ago.
It's supposed to be really weird. Like I heard like good weird.
I remember it being weird, but again, this is like memory of me when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah. I just know people who watched it that like they still have fun memories of it, like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and all them kind of stuff. But Max like kind of moved to a new place, struggling to settle in, and he's not having the best of days, is he? Like
when we see him starting off, like he's kind of cocky.
Yeah.
He's starting to put on this like air of like the cool dude from LA.
I don't believe this stuff. Kind of the skeptic.
But you see that like I suppose maybe it didn't like Jay and Ernie bring him down to earth pretty quick. And even Allison like giving him back the number that he gave her.
Yeah, I gotta say though, I thought I loved that moment because he's kind of like, I think there is some sincerity in that he doesn't believe it. Like he thinks it's like whatever. But yeah, obviously he's a teenager. He's trying to be cool, and macho. But I do like it's a great way. It was a great comeback, and then a great way to ask someone out. Like just like, so if Jimi Hendrix shows up tonight, here's my number. After saying that like that's from the dead return. Like I thought it was I thought it was funny. I liked that. But definitely then he's brought back down to earth. Like she gives him back the number, and then do you know what I mean? Shay and Ernie,
see these cross trainers.
But yeah, no, like I mean, he's not having the best of days, is he? Like
you feel his frustration, and like, and then it's compounded by having to take his little sister out going trick or treating.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I had to take you out trick or treating, and I didn't want to go, so I can very much empathize.
But
with Max.
Again, that's kind of the point I'm making. That like they really kind of captured that with him and Danny. That kind of, and her being like 10 and him being the teenager. I think they really caught that kind of feeling and that kind of, I wouldn't say sibling rivalry, but I kind of like, I don't want to do this, the kind of that arguing kind of pettiness between them. It really captured that. Like, I thought it was realistic. Like you were saying, you thought Luke was a little flat, kind of in Witches a little bit. I thought here there was really realistic depictions of kids and teenagers. You know what I mean, in the film, which I thought was really good as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to go through my notes, trying to find.
One thing I just noticed. It's not really a major character trait. It was just something I noticed, and I in all the years watching it, I never did. Was when Jay and Ice stopped them and they demand the sweets from Danny, and he goes, "Here, pig out," or something like that.
Pay down, I think he said. Yeah.
He had been collecting candy. Like that was his bag.
Yeah,
I always thought he'd given them Danny's bag, which kind of made him look worse in my eyes. But it was his bag.
Yeah, no, he gave them his bag. Yeah, like what he was trying to do there, he was trying to because first he says, "Let's just go this way." He was trying to
avert situation.
Yeah, exactly. And like she, as I said earlier, like without realizing, she just makes it 100 times worse for him. And like he does like. To a degree, he does stand up for her, like, he's like, he gives him the kind of, he's like, "Danny, let's get out of here." But like, he's right in that, like, what was he supposed to do? She's like, he should have punched him, like, you can see why he's annoyed at her in that moment,
Yeah, no,
he's meant to look a fool. But then you see, he maybe was a little harsh and she gets upset. I think there is a really nice moment that you were saying about, like, you kind of felt more with her and Binks, but there's a really nice moment. And it's just so simple where he's like, give me one more chance. And she's like, "Why should I? Because I'm your brother." And he gives that little kind of face, which is so a thing you do to try and make someone smile or laugh. You know what I mean? Like you see, you do it all the time, like this weird kind, and you're gonna laugh, like, and they start laughing. It felt authentic, kind of. It was a little small moment. But
it did. I'll be honest though, for Max, like I don't know. I kind of felt he felt a little flat to me, and I'll be honest, I think it was partly with the performance. I didn't think it was a great performance.
Go on.
Yeah, it just like I can see what they were going for with the story arc and the kind of the parallels between Binks and Emily and him and Danny. But like I said earlier, I felt it more between Danny and Binks and Emily. I really felt Binks and Emily, and I really felt Binks and Danny. I didn't feel Danny and Max as much. I mean, obviously it is there, and like when he sacrificed himself at the end, or at least he thinks he's sacrificing himself for her. And actually, one thing in that, again, as a kid, I could never figure out, why does he catch it? Like, why doesn't he let it drop and then she'll die? I was thinking was, well, if she's lost all hope, she'll just throw Danny off and kill her.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It was
so
the one kind of
his thought is make sure Danny gets down safely.
Yeah.
So that's why he caught her. I always thought it was a flaw in the writer.
No, but yeah, you would do that because that was without that he's probably gonna throw her off the killer like. But again, because for me it's like he's kind of reluctant because I think like Alison and Danny like are very they don't shy away. Where in the early stages he shies away quite a bit with the bullies and that, and it's kind of. It comes down to the crunch in where like he really stands up to protect his sister, which I thought that was a really cool kind of arc for him, kind of. And then also there's the parallel with Binks and Emily, and Binks reminding him like to take care of your sister. Now I don't know, I thought it worked really well. Like
I think they wrote a good character arc, but I honestly didn't think the actor's performance was good enough to carry it off.
Yeah,
it felt flat to me.
I would disagree with that.
Because I know I've been giving out about lack of arcs, and he has an arc, but I don't know. I didn't feel it.
Yeah, no, like I always found he kind of him quite even just he had that kind of look. I thought he was kind of I'd say charming is the right word, but just he had that kind of. What you want in a leading part, male part in it. I always thought he kind of had that kind of look, the thing going on, I always thought he was really good in it. Like I think all the protagonists worked in it.
I thought him and I thought Allison was at times a little flat as well. Not as much, but I thought Max was quite flat. I thought for me it was the sisters obviously were amazing.
Well, yeah, they're
And then Binks and Danny as well. I thought they were the characters that really elevated it for me. I think with weaker actors in those roles, and which is I know to be fair, it's a lot of roles, but I think the movie is lifted by some excellent performances. I thought Max and Allison were less interesting to me. They were the least interesting part of the protagonist to me in the movie. It was Danny and Binks and the sisters. That's what grabbed me.
Yeah, no, again, so I would disagree with that. I really like Max. He's probably my favorite character in it. Again, I think it's because of that kind of insecurity, going to a new place, and he's got all these struggles and obstacles to overcome. And I just really like that scene at the end that he does kind of sacrifice himself for Danny, and they have that kind of moment. And
like I think it's written well enough. I don't think the performance.
Oh no, I understand.
Carries the weight of what they were trying to pull
off. I thought he carried that really well. I thought he really.
That's fair enough, and then that's why we're here to debate. And to do battle with each other as well as the movies do battle.
Like just to try and I thought he. As I said, I thought he really encapsulated that kind of teenager, and Thora Birch really encapsulated the kind of the child.
I think she definitely did.
And I think Vanessa Shaw, obviously her character isn't. She's a main character, but they're kind of the two. Well, Max is the main character, but Danny is kind of the second in, like the secondary, and then you've got kind of Alison then as well and Binks, but I think they definitely encapsulated it, which I think was something that kind of I looked at. The way we're doing it now, you're looking at it from a different angle, and I really kind of saw that in those two, that they really encapsulate the kind of the teenager and the child, which is another aspect that I liked. But one thing I got to throw in is he gets a raw deal of that for being a virgin at like 16 or 17, doesn't he?
I mean, it is
kind of felt for him in that,
he's not like he's 24 or 5 or something.
I know, it's like I just thought, and that scene with the cop was amazing.
That was funny. Yeah.
That whole thing with this, first we're like, and he's a virgin. Really, you a virgin? Look, I get a tattoo to my forehead, but then as they go off, like. I thought it was a real cop. That was just great.
It was a good one.
That scene.
But we vote?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to go first?
Yeah, it's pretty. What's that word? What's that
Conclusive?
word? Yeah, but there's another. I'm not going to think of it. But yeah, I think Witches has Ava, the head witch. She's brilliant in it. The grandmother had potential. They didn't fully utilize it. And Luke, I think early on there's a nice little bond with him and his grandmother, but I don't think it went the whole way through. Whereas in Hocus Pocus, the three witches are great. I love Max, Danny's great, Alison's great, Binks is great, and then you've got Billy, Ernie, Jay. These smaller ingredients to it. I think there's. Not only do you have more characters, but you have a lot of really good, interesting characters. So I just think Hocus Pocus has to take. Hocus Pocus definitely. I think for characters.
I agree. Hocus Pocus definitely. I agree that Ernst is kind of the only real character in The Witches that grabs me in a major way. I feel like it was the special effects and the sense of horror is what enraptured me the most about that movie. But the characters themselves didn't stand out really in any great way. There's nothing truly memorable about them. It was the horror and the visuals and the special effects that I thought were excellent. In Hocus Pocus, and we've just discussed at length, I didn't think Max or Allison grabbed me really all that much.
Boo.
But the dynamic between the Sanderson sisters, it was fantastic, and I would gladly watch another well-written movie with them in it. But my favorite character, like I said already, was Danny. Thora Birch's performance is fantastic. And Danny is a really believable and likable character, and the relationship she has with Binks, for me, is what really sealed the deal for me. And so I Hocus Pocus as well, yeah, definitely. So that makes it 4-2 to Hocus Pocus. A well fought battle, but Hokey Pokey takes it in the end.
Yeah, like I think it's a shame that like just on the witches that like they didn't have that they shifted so much from that kind of tone that they had in the first like half hour or so of the film, and also that they didn't use more of the grandmother because I thought there was so much potential there. With her. Just a final kind of note on that. And then
Yep.
with Hocus Pocus, then again, just like I just love all the characters. I love all the characters. So like there's so many in it, but there's no character in the film I don't like. You know.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're acting out every single character and every word they say, then you gotta like the characters. You gotta like the source material.
Yeah. Well, and again, you were saying like about kind of you were saying about like with witches, like you when you were a child, you were terrified of it, and as an adult, you're like, yeah, that was justifiable. In a similar kind of way, it's like I loved Hocus Pocus as a child, but I still love it as an adult. You know, it's just kind of one of those ones. You know.
Yeah,
But you
no,
always like that when you have
Yeah.
a film from your childhood that you still adore and still watch it, and you don't just watch it because you used to love it. You watch it because you still really enjoy it.
Yeah, they're both films that definitely hold up from when we
Mhm.
watched them as kids. I thoroughly enjoyed both. I thought both are like the theme of this week was family friendly horror. Obviously, family friendly spooky or the Halloween season, and both of these films slot in perfectly for family viewings, which is maybe well, not maybe it is definitely too intense for very young kids, but of a certain age, it's just perfect.
Yeah, and sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. So I think they both kind of really. I'm really glad we did these two as part of our October horror fest.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I think they're definitely two you should watch during coming up to Halloween. They're two great films to watch coming up to Halloween.
Yeah, and they deserve their place, within the classic horrors that we've done and the classic horrors that we will do.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
So next week, yes, it is The Exorcist versus The Omen. So it's all about Satan. next week.
Satan comes to the fore. How can you do horror without some demons?
And yeah, and just a reminder as well, we will be having a bonus episode, so you'll actually be getting 2 episodes next week.
Yes. Next Friday is the
Exorcist versus The Omen.
Exorcist versus The Omen. And then
bonus
we
episode.
Won't reveal,
Yes,
but on the next day, on the Saturday, on Halloween, we will release the bonus October final cap to our horror fest.
Yeah, but so yeah, we hope you enjoyed episode 9, all about witches and witchcraft. But until next week, we'll leave it there. So.
We'll leave it there. So.